Is this the best Cyclops action figure? Today, we're looking at SHF's foray into the Gamerverse line to see if this really is the preeminent Cyclops to add to your collection. So let's get this new Scott Summers out of the box and see what we're working with. For head sculpts, they went with this building blocks type of structure where there's one piece of hair included, which is to be used for all of the other pieces, and then separate lower halves with a neutral face, a snarling face, and a screaming face. They're a little cartoony, kind of stylized, but I do like the way they look, and they're based off a pixelated video game, so they had a lot of creative liberties here. To complete these building block style head sculpts, you get 4 separate visor pieces, a standard one that's kind of charging or discharging, one with a big exploding blast effect, and finally one with a smaller, more contained blast effect. Conceptually, the route they went with the head sculpts is pretty neat because there is a lot of customization you get with this setup, but the individual pieces, in my experience, don't hold super well, so you might have to deal with a lot of the pieces popping off constantly. In addition to the head sculpts, you also get these 3 separate neck pieces, which is pretty unique. I don't know if I've ever really seen this on a figure before, but they enable Cyclops to get different angles with his head, like leaning forward, looking up, or just a stationary pose. So above the neck, there is a lot going on, a lot to customize and swap around, and you may find that intimidating. I certainly do, but like I said, it gives you a lot of options, and I certainly won't complain about a good variety of accessories. To complete the unboxing, you get fists, open grabby hands, saluter hands, outstretched hands, and finger gun hands. Lastly, you get these 2 cardboard blast effects that can combine together to make a giant optic blast. I'm not the biggest fan of this. It's not a terrible inclusion in the packaging. I just don't see it holding up over time, and I don't really know where I'll put it because I probably won't display him with this effect. But without further ado, here is the S.H.F. Gamerverse Cyclops, and my first impressions are that he looks great. This is a really nice, solidly built action figure. He feels more sturdy than some of the recent Dragon Ball SHFs that I've unboxed, and the architecture feels very similar to like the SHF Spider-Man Noir, if you're familiar with that figure, and with them both being Marvel, that makes sense. There's a really subtle gradient in the blue that you can see all over the figure, almost like an airbrushing that really helps the musculature and the details of the sculpt pop without being too overbearing or looking like a cel-shaded figure. And then the yellow is this kind of mustard shade that looks perfect with the blue they chose. I don't need to tell you how iconic this color combination is, but I think the color and paint on this figure are some of its best attributes. Of course, you do get the SHF thong, which doesn't bother me personally, but I know some people don't like it, and even though it doesn't bother me, I do still find it to be a little funny. So it looks great. We knew that from the promo pics, but how does it move? It's an SHF, so my hopes are pretty high that it'll be great. Remember, you do have the swappable necks to get more range of motion, but the standard neck can actually look down pretty far and even look up pretty well. The upwards facing neck, as you can imagine, can only look basically straight ahead, but can't really look super far up either. Here are the 2 necks side by side, and I don't think I understand what the point of this extra neck is. Maybe I'm wrong about what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't lean back more than the standard neck, so I don't know. Instructions, unhelpful as well. The last neck, which is this leaning forward one, gives him a ton of range looking down, and looking up is basically just looking straight ahead, but with his neck craned forward so he can be in a dynamic blast pose. In the shoulders, he's got this really big and round butterfly joint, which rotates around really well, allowing for good forward cross-body movement, but surprisingly little going backward. The arms can lift up a little above 90 degrees, nothing too special there. Then he's got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and a ball joint at the wrist. Now for the biggest question mark about this design, is there any ab crunch at all? Because he's got these straps that are actually attached at the waist. And so what SHF wants you to do is pull these straps outward like this so that they don't get in the way, and then you can manipulate the torso, but even with the straps pulled out, he really doesn't have much in the way of ab crunch, like there's nothing there basically. Plus, these straps don't feel super sturdy and they're really hard to get back into the body once you pull them out. But what I figured out is that you can rotate the leg until you see the strap from the bottom, and then you can kind of grab it and get it to go back in, and you can rotate the leg to help pull it along. It's an odd system, and I'm really concerned about how well it'll hold up over time. I thought I might break it before I even filmed with it, which really would have sucked. Below the waist, you've got legs that can rotate all the way around, but don't kick up very far because they don't have a drop hip of any kind. And then there's a hip swivel, double jointed knees, a ball joint ankle, and toe articulation in the foot. The articulation's not bad. The ab crunch is bad, but it's not great either. And they've done better, like I mentioned earlier, with some of their more recent Dragon Ball figures that are like insanely posable. If I had to describe this Cyclops in 1 or 2 words, it would be over-engineered. There's a lot going on here that is unique, but it feels like maybe they overthought some things. But this is also kind of my first Cyclops figure, so I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, I do have the X-Men 97 Cyclops still in box, but I don't know if I count that or not. At any rate, here is the S.H.F. Cyclops next to that 97 Cyclops. Here he is in a lineup with Wolverine and Magneto from X-Men 97. Probably a better side-by-side would be the Gamerverse Wolverine, and they're basically the same height. Also, next to Cyclops, the Gamerverse Wolverine looks gaudy. This yellow is so neon. Dang, I never noticed that before. Here's Cyclops with the Gamerverse Captain America, who's actually a really tall figure. And lastly, in terms of side-by-sides, we've got Cyclops and Ryu from Jada Toys' Street Fighter line. In terms of an actual measurement, Cyclops is pretty much exactly 6 inches tall, so he's perfectly in scale with other 1/12 figures, which is always great to see, and I know SHF got some heat when this was announced that he was not the right height, so this confirms that they did indeed fix that. All in all, this is clearly an imperfect figure, but I do still personally really like it. Am I willing or able to say that this is now the definitive Cyclops action figure? No, probably not. I think if you have the Mafex or maybe even a Marvel Legends version that you already love, you might not even need this one. It's a good figure, it'll pair well with the upcoming Spider-Man, but some of the weird design choices with the head sculpts and the torso straps could definitely be a turnoff for some collectors. But what do you guys think of this S.H.F. Gamerverse Cyclops? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video.